The movie revolves around the lives of royals in three kingdoms. The movie begins in the kingdom of Long Trellis, where the king and queen who hadn't conceived a child were being entertained in their palace. As the performance goes on, one of the performers unrobes herself, revealing she's pregnant. This got the queen infuriated and she leaves angrily, breaking things in her bedroom. She was followed by the king, who comforted her, assuring her he would do anything it takes for them to have a child. That night, a necromancer came by and said that if the queen eats a sea dragon's heart cooked by a virgin, she will be with a child, though this will cost her life, stating that with a birth comes death. The king, willing to go to any length to please his wife, armed himself and went to the river to kill a sea dragon. He sees it and slays the sea dragon but dies from his wounds. The queen picks up the heart of the dragon by the king's dead body, and the virgin was someone who cooked the meat. The queen eats the heart and the next day bears a son, Elias, with hair as white as a dragon. The virgin also gives birth to a boy, Jonah. We are then shown the king's body being taken for burial. In the next scene, we are shown the queen playing with her son Elias in the maze, where he was met by Jonah, and together they rode a horse to the river to swim. The boys turn out to be identical and inseparable friends, which annoys the queen greatly. She sent out guards to get her son back home and summoned the virgin, warning her to ask her son to stay away from Elias, else there will be consequences. Elias arrives home and the queen informs him that he will be regretful if he's ever caught with Jonah again, as she's the queen and must be obeyed. We are then introduced to the lustful queen of Strong Cliff Kingdom, getting up from a tent after a wild night of passion. As he leaves for his palace, he hears a woman singing and is intrigued by the sound of the woman's heavenly singing. He calls her to her, but she runs away. He goes home and picks up a piece of gold necklace from his treasury and gets it delivered to the lady, who turns out to be an old lady called Dora, who lives with her sister Emma. She excitedly wears the necklace, feeling happy she's been courted by the king. The king arrived at her home that evening and asked to see his love interest. Knowing he wouldn't love to be with an old lady, she refused to open the door and asked that he comes by the next day and she will show him her fingers. We are then introduced to the king of High Hills, sitting in his palace as his daughter plays a sound to him. As the music went on, he was disturbed by a flea and became fascinated by it. He took it into his room and fed it droplets of his blood and hid it in his room as a pet. The king spent time with the flea and it grows bigger as the day goes by. One day, during lunch, his daughter Violet asks that she be allowed to explore the world so she doesn't grow an empty mind. But her father assures her she will explore once she's married, and she asks him to get a husband for her. In the kingdom of Long Trellis, the queen sits in her chamber and asks her son who came in to help her with her earrings. But on closer look, she realizes he is instead Jonah. Jonah met with Elias, excited he was mistaken for Elias, which means they can do anything they want to and deceive his mom. The queen overhears them and, pretending to be oblivious to their plan, went up to Jonah and kissed him as her son. The next day, we see Jonah leaving the kingdom to meet the love of his life, but was stopped by Elias. Jonah plunges a knife into a tree root and tells Elias that as long as the root spouts clear water, he is alive and well and he lives. Back to the kingdom of Strong Cliff, Dora agrees to spend the night with the king as long as it is in complete darkness. Before she leaves, she gets her loose and wrinkled skin patched up and goes to sleep with the king. The next day, after the night of passion, the king is horrified when he sees her appearance and has his guards throw her out through the window. She survives entangled in the branches of a tree. A witch rescues her and nurses her from her breast. Dora awakens as a young, beautiful maiden. The lustful king sees her still naked while hunting and decides to make her his queen. At the kingdom of High Hills, the flea grows gigantic in the king's room and gets sick and about to die. He calls his doctor for help, but the flea dies. The king decides to skin it, and as his daughter has told him she wants to be married, he offers her as a bride to whoever can guess from what beast the skin was taken, believing no one can do so. Handsome and well-meaning men came by, but none could guess it correctly. However, an ogre correctly identifies the hide by smell. The horrified princess runs away, intending to throw herself off the cliff, but was stopped by her dad, who stated it could be the will of God the ogre be her husband. The king says he cannot go back on his word, and the princess goes through with the marriage but says her father never loved her. The ogre took her on a long journey to his house, which is simply a cave, and raped her, leaving her desolate. Back to the kingdom of Long Trellis, the queen was met with the news that her son is missing and goes to look for him. Elias, discovering the water from the tree is clouded with blood, has set her to save Jonah. The queen has her subjects search for Elias to no avail. The necromancer blames the queen and says the boys are truly inseparable and that her violent desire can be achieved only through violence. Elias finds Jonah wounded in a cave, threatened by a monster, which wounds Jonah but hesitates to attack Elias, who finally kills the monster and returns Jonah to his wife. In the cave, the monster's cup dissolves into that of the queen. In the kingdom of Strongcliff, Dora invites her sister Emma, who isn't aware she's now looking young, to her wedding, and there, she introduces herself and promises to take care of her, but says she cannot stay in the castle. Emma refuses to leave, asking for the secret to her sister's youth and beauty. In annoyance, Dora says she got herself flayed. Emma was thrown out of the palace after violating the royal couple's privacy in their bedroom, as she caught them making love. Emma finds someone willing to flay her, leaving her bloody and disfigured. Violet, the princess, tired of being with the ogre, seeks help from a friend of Acrobat who helps her to escape, but the ogre gives chase and kills the entire family. Still enraged, he was mollified by Violet, who then slits his throat. Violet returns to the castle where the king has grown ill and reveals she has the head of the ogre, the husband he chose for her. The king falls to his knee crying and his subjects follow suit. Violet too begins to cry. Elias, Dora, and the king of Strongcliff are among the guests for Violet's coronation as queen. There, Elias nods to her and the king of Strongcliff. As Violet's father walks her to the throne, the crowd looks skyward where an entertainer is walking a tightrope of fire. We then see Dora's beauty beginning to fade, and unnoticed, she flees the castle. Subscribe for more videos like this. Leave a comment behind and pound the notification icon. Thanks for watching.